There are things people see in you that you've stopped seeing in yourself. Not because they disappeared. Because familiarity does something to perception, it makes the remarkable ordinary, it makes the magnetic invisible, it makes the thing that other people feel immediately when they enter your orbit something you pass right by because you've been inside it too long to feel its pull. Tonight is about that, about what other people have been seeing and what it might mean to finally let yourself see it too. Someone has been thinking about you, not in the vague general way that people occupy each other's thoughts in passing, in the specific way, the kind where your face surfaces unexpectedly in the middle of their day and stays longer than they planned, where something you said, maybe something you said casually, without knowing it would land replays in them at odd moments, where they find themselves looking for reasons to be in your orbit, creating them when they don't naturally appear, noticing things about you that they've filed carefully and returned to more than once, and they're younger than you. That's the part that complicates it slightly. That introduces a particular quality of disorientation because there's something about being seen that way by someone younger without the weight of history, without the accumulated familiarity that makes the people who have known you longest somewhat blind to what you are, that is both flattering and destabilizing in equal measure. That makes you look at yourself through eyes that aren't yours and see something that surprises you. But before we stay too long with the one, because there isn't just one, is there, let's acknowledge what the multiplicity means. Because that's the thing that's harder to explain away. One person's interest you can contextualize. You can find the reason it's specific to them, specific to their taste, specific to something about their particular position that makes you more visible or more appealing than you'd otherwise seem. One person is a data point, interesting, maybe meaningful, but containable within the story you've been telling yourself about who you are and how you're perceived. But multiple people, different ages, different contexts, different relationships to you, different moments of contact, all of them being drawn toward you in ways that aren't coordinated, aren't coincidental, aren't about any single factor you can isolate and point to. That's not a data point. That's a pattern. And patterns are harder to dismiss. Patterns require a different kind of explanation than it's just them or it's just the circumstance or any of the other ways you've probably been managing this information before it could fully land. And here's the thing about how you've been receiving this. Because there is a way you receive attention, a specific, automatic, deeply installed response that activates when someone moves toward you in the way these people have been moving. And it's worth looking at honestly, not to judge it, to understand it, because it's been shaping what you allow in and what you intercept before it can actually reach you. When someone expresses interest, genuine, specific, clearly felt interest, something happens in you before the conscious mind gets involved, something automatic. And for most people, for people who have learned through specific experiences that being wanted openly is vulnerable in particular ways, that automatic response is some version of deflection, of reduction, of finding the reason the interest isn't quite what it seems, or the reason you aren't quite what they think you are, or the reason this probably won't go anywhere meaningful, even if it is real. The deflection is fast, faster than thought. It happens in the body before the mind has formed a sentence, in the subtle pulling back, in the almost involuntary move to make yourself smaller than the attention suggests you should be, in the quick internal calculation of why this person's perception of you might be mistaken, why they'd see things differently if they knew you better, why the version of you they're responding to isn't the accurate one, or at least not the complete one, not the one that includes all the parts you're less certain about. And that deflection, that fast, practiced, protective move away from being fully received, has become so habitual that you've probably stopped noticing it as a choice. It just feels like modesty, like being realistic, like not reading too much into things, like being the kind of person who doesn't inflate their own significance in other people's lives. But modesty and deflection are different things. Modesty is accurate perception of yourself, seeing yourself clearly without inflation or diminishment in the honest middle. Deflection is the systematic interception of positive information before it can change the story you've been telling yourself. It's not accuracy, it's protection. Protection from the specific vulnerability of believing you're worth wanting, really believing it in the body, in the chest, in the place where real beliefs live, and then being proved wrong. Because that's the fear underneath the deflection. Not that you'll be arrogant, not that you'll overestimate yourself, but that you'll let the wanting land, let it actually reach you, change how you feel about yourself, shift the story, and then something will happen to show you it was wrong. That the perception they had of you was based on an incomplete picture, that the version they were responding to wasn't the full one. And the distance between what they thought you were and what you turn out to be in the full reality of knowing you will be felt as a loss by them. And by you as the specific confirmation of the fear that the real version of you is somehow less than what people see from a distance. That fear has been running the deflection, not consciously, but consistently. And what it's been costing you in the specific currency of connection, of being known, of the experience of actually being seen and allowing that seeing to reach you is worth looking at. Because the deflection doesn't just protect you from the feared disappointment. It protects you from the experience of being received, of being genuinely wanted, and letting that wanting actually land in the place where it would change something, where it would revise the story, where it would shift slightly but significantly how you understand yourself, and the story needs revising. That's the honest thing to say about where you are right now. The story you've been telling yourself about how you're perceived, about what you mean to people, about the impact you have in rooms you enter, about the specific, magnetic, quietly powerful quality you carry that other people feel before they understand it. That story is smaller than the evidence. It's been written with a particular kind of selectivity, attending more to the moments that confirmed limitation than to the moments that confirmed something larger, more willing to believe the evidence of your smallness than the evidence of your impact. And the someone younger, the one who's been thinking about you in the specific way they're seeing without that filter, without the accumulated story, without the specific history that has taught you to see yourself through a particular lens, They're encountering you as you actually are in the moment, not as the archive of everything you've been through and everything you've concluded about yourself from it. And what they're finding is compelling them. Genuinely, in the involuntary way that real attraction works. Not from strategy, not from calculation, but from contact with something that affects them before they have the language for why. And that version of you, the one they're responding to, the one that exists when you're not managing yourself through the filter of your own history, deserves more credit than you've been giving it. Because it isn't a performance. It isn't the curated version or the carefully assembled version or the version that's been strategically optimized for appeal. It's just you in the moments when you forget to be self-conscious. When you're genuinely present in something, when the managing drops and whatever is actually there gets to be there fully, those moments, the unmanaged ones, the ones where the real version shows up without the filter, are apparently compelling, are apparently the kind of thing that makes people think about you unexpectedly in the middle of their days, are apparently the kind of thing that draws multiple people from multiple contexts in your direction without any of them knowing the others are also being drawn. That's not nothing. That's actually when you let it be as significant as it is without immediately finding a reason to reduce it. That's significant. That's the kind of information that should change something about the story, about the version of yourself you carry around internally, about what you believe you mean to people when you're just being yourself without trying to be anything in particular. Now, here's the question worth sitting with. Not the one about what to do about the younger person or any of the others, the more fundamental one, the one that determines everything else. What do you do with this information right now? In the privacy of your own mind, in the honest place where real decisions get made, do you let it land? Do you allow the fact of being wanted specifically by multiple people in ways that aren't coordinated or coincidental to actually reach the place where it would change something, where it would revise the story, where it would shift the way you hold yourself when you move through rooms? Or do you intercept it, find the reason it doesn't quite count, contextualize it into something smaller than it is? Return, after a moment of being almost affected, to the familiar version of the story, the one where you're less than what these people seem to be seeing, where the gap between their perception and reality is a problem with their perception rather than information about yours. Because here's what's true about what they see, what the younger one sees, what all of them see. It isn't wrong. It isn't a misperception that will correct itself with more information. It isn't based on an incomplete picture that the full reality would undercut. It's based on contact with something genuinely there. Something that exists in you has always existed in you, that the familiarity of your relationship with yourself has made invisible to you, but that is immediately apparent to people who don't have that familiarity, who aren't filtering you through the accumulated story. What they see is you, the actual you, the one that exists independent of your history with yourself, independent of everything you've concluded about your own limitations and your own smallness and the version of yourself that requires management before it can be presented to the world, the unmanaged version, the one that shows up in the moments when you're genuinely present and not thinking about how you're coming across, that version is apparently, and let this land without the deflection for just a moment, remarkable in ways that multiple people independently have been affected by, in ways that a person who is younger and therefore without the filters that familiarity builds is responding to with a clarity and intensity that older people around you, people who are used to you, who have categorized you, who see you through the lens of everything they already know, can no longer see. And the gift of that, of being seen by someone whose perception isn't filtered through familiarity, is that it gives you a glimpse of yourself from the outside, from the position of someone who doesn't have access to the story you've built about your own limitations, from the vantage point of someone who is simply encountering you as you are and being affected by what they find. And the question, the one this whole moment is really about, is whether you're going to use that glimpse, whether you're going to let it revise something, whether the information that multiple people are drawn to you in ways you haven't fully acknowledged is going to change even slightly the story you tell yourself about who you are and what you mean to the people whose orbit you enter. Not in a grandiose way, not in a way that replaces accurate self-knowledge with inflation, but in the specific, honest, necessary way of someone who has been systematically undervaluing themselves, intercepting the evidence of their own significance before it could change anything, and who is finally, in this moment, being asked to stop, to let the information in, to let it reach the place where it would revise the story, to let themselves be wanted, not strategically, not as a position to be leveraged, but in the simple, profound, deeply human sense of allowing another person's genuine perception of you to reach you, to matter, to change something about how you hold yourself when you move through the world. Because here's what becomes available when you stop deflecting. When you allow the wanting to land. When you let the evidence of your own impact on the younger one, on the others, on the people who have been in your orbit and been affected in ways you've been minimizing, actually change the story. You become more, not differently, not performing a new version of yourself, just more present in your own impact, more willing to take up the space that the evidence suggests you should be taking up, more willing to be as significant in your own estimation as you apparently are in other people's experience of you. And that simple, unperformed, honestly grounded, more changes the quality of your presence in every room, changes what you allow yourself to pursue and what you allow yourself to receive, changes the dynamic with every person who is currently drawn to you, because the version of you that knows it's worth wanting is a different thing to be in contact with than the version that intercepts the wanting before it can. Land. Let it land. That's the whole thing. That's what this moment is asking. Not to do anything differently, not to change how you present yourself or pursue anyone or strategize about what to do with the information. Just let it land. Let the fact of being wanted specifically, genuinely, by people whose perception of you is unclouded by the story you've been telling yourself reach the place where it matters, where it changes something, where it revises the story slightly in the direction of what the evidence actually suggests. You are more than the story has been saying. That's the information from multiple sources, from people who don't have access to the story and are therefore free to see what's actually there. From a younger person whose perception hasn't been filtered through familiarity and who is responding to the real version of you with a clarity and intensity that says unmistakably, repeatedly, in the specific language of genuine attraction, that what's actually there is worth responding to. Believe them. Not because they're infallible, not because external validation is the foundation of self-worth, but because in this specific case, the evidence is consistent, the sources are multiple, the perception is unfiltered, and the story you've been telling yourself is smaller than what they're seeing. Let the smaller story go. Just slightly, just enough to let what's actually there be as real as the people responding to it already know it is. You are being seen, really seen by people who have no reason to see anything other than what's there. And what's there, what they keep finding, what keeps drawing them back, what a younger person is responding to with an intensity that surprised even them is you. The actual you, the unmanaged one, the one that exists when the story stops running, and what's really there gets to just be there fully, without interception, without deflection, without the story deciding in advance that it's less than what it is. It's more, it has always been more. And they, all of them, already know it. Now it's your turn.